Hello, this is Kiwi. In this video, I'm going to outline some differences and similarities between living in America versus living in New Zealand. So I've made a little bit of a list of differences and similarities that I've noticed between the two countries, and I thought it would make a very interesting video to outline some of the differences. Let's begin. The most obvious one would be driving. Obviously on the right side of the road for Americans, and the left side of the road for us Kiwis. And then the other obvious difference is in the vehicle. The steering wheel is on the right side of the car for New Zealand and the left side of the car for Americans. This is going to be very interesting when I can drive here. Basically, I'm going to have to think backwards for a little while, and turning into roads, I'm going to have to make sure I stay on the right. And another one is your stop signs. So when you get to a set of stop signs, whoever gets there first goes first, and then the next person that got there goes next. It just flows on like that. It makes sense. But I'm having trouble with that one. When people don't obey that rule, it mucks me up. I'm like, well, I thought it was this rule, and it was, but somebody just did it wrong. In New Zealand, we have the giveaway rule, where you give way to anyone coming from your right, and they have the right of way, then you go. Also, roundabouts aren't very common in America, but they're very common in New Zealand. So I feel like I'm a roundabout master in a roundabout kind of way. So I shouldn't have too much trouble with that when I can get to drive here. Not that they're very common. I've seen one roundabout in America. Oh, another one is the red light rule, where you can turn right at a red light unless it's marked by a sign or you've got your own arrow. So if you're stopped at a red light, you can turn right because no traffic will be coming from your left. Again, this one is a little bit confusing for me. We don't have anything like that back home. I'm sure there'll be some other road-related ones, but I'll come back to that as I remember. Also, if you have your own similarities or differences between the two countries that you know of that I don't talk about, feel free to leave a comment, and it'll be interesting to hear about your experiences too. Okay, food. Food I have been struggling with a little bit. In particular is bread. Bread in America is quite a bit more expensive than New Zealand, which is very surprising to me. Depending what you go for, obviously. I like a kind of like a seedy, multigrain, slightly higher quality bread. I don't like white bread, so I don't go for that, which is probably the cheaper stuff. But I'm finding that I would pay somewhere between $4 or $6 for one loaf of bread. And you never have any specials here where you get like 2 for 1, or like back home we do like 2 for $5, for instance, for good bread. So I'm surprised by that. And also, bread in America is sweet. It has quite a bit of sugar in it. Again, I'm not used to that. I like my bread not sweet. So I've been struggling to find a good loaf of bread that isn't sweet, that isn't too expensive, and is healthy. So if you know of any good brands. I have found one or two, but it's not the easiest thing to find, to be honest. I guess sweetbread sells better, it tastes better, but to me, it doesn't. I don't like sweetbread. So there we go. You've learned something about me tonight. Another one is beef that I'm having trouble with. I found that in America, if I eat anything with beef in it, it gives me a sore stomach. So I've been having to avoid buying that or cooking with it or buying like hamburgers, things like that. Things that you should be allowed to have when in America. So my hypothesis is that in New Zealand most beef is grass-fed, and I'm thinking where I am here in America it's not, and it's probably raised differently, different conditions, maybe more mass produced, unfortunately. So yeah, there could be something with the raising of it that I'm having trouble with, so I'm avoiding that for now, which is probably a health benefit, to be honest. So in general, I think I'm finding that American food prices are cheaper at the supermarket. You do have to pay the tax on top of the price that you see on the item. So I'm not used to that. In our final price, it's all included. There's a GST, which is the goods and services tax, is included in the price, so that what you see on the label is what you pay at the checkout. So I understand that this is there's a federal tax. I think I'm using that term correctly, on top of the items. So that just means the prices can be shown across all states, and then within that state they apply their tax amount on top of that, which is what you pay later at the checkout. If I'm not getting this right, I'm sure you'll correct me, but that's fine. We're all learning here. So going back to food, meal sizes are just much bigger in America. And another common thing is if you're at a restaurant, the waiters or waitresses will bring out multiple plates for your order. That kind of is crazy to me. Like, I'm just used to one plate of what you ordered coming out. And yeah, like you'll have a table full of different plates of things, which is very interesting to me. Another interesting one is free refills. Again, in New Zealand, you buy a drink, that's it. At some places, maybe. I know, like Burger King, I think you can get free refills. Anywhere else, I don't think you're allowed. The servers won't offer you a refill on your drink. You have to pay extra to get that. There's also a drink cup culture in America that New Zealand doesn't have. So again, it probably ties in with your free refills. So you get your refill on your way out to your car, and you have a drink for the rest of the day. New Zealand, not really a thing. Customer service is an interesting one. I find in America, people that work in stores or shops are typically a lot friendlier and more outgoing, more willing to help you than I find in New Zealand, which is sad. That's the way it is. I just find that you're greeted at a store a bit more friendly, a bit more personable. Just probably more well taken care of. And then along with that, again, if you're at a restaurant, which is the only place I've had to do it, is a tip. In New Zealand, we don't tip. You can if you want to, but it's not really necessary. So I know that the minimum wage in America is pretty low. I think it's around about $7.25. I'm not sure if that's correct. Could be, may not be. The minimum wage in New Zealand, I think, is about $15. So with the exchange rate, I think 1 New Zealand dollar is roughly about 68 US cents. So, an interesting one that grinds my gears. No, it doesn't really. But fuel prices. Let's talk about fuel prices for a second, shall we? In the US, you're paying around about $2 for 1 gallon. In New Zealand, we're paying, the last time I saw it, was about $2.20. It'll depend which area you live in. $2.20 for 1 litre. So 1 litre, 1 gallon is 3.78 litres. So almost 4 litres that you're paying the same price for as our 1 litre. So, yeah. You're lucky. Going back to food for a second. No high fructose corn syrup. That's a big one. It's kind of like a win if it has it labelled on the packaging of the food that it has no high fructose corn syrup. So that is basically just really bad sugar that is in a lot of cheap food to make it taste good, make it sweet. So like on labelling in America, they put it like center on their packaging to tell you that it doesn't have that in it. Whereas in New Zealand, it's just like small writing on the back somewhere. Obviously, there's a lot of differences in words. Things like the hood of the car, which is the bonnet, or the trunk of a car, which is the boot. The rubbish bin is a trash can. There'd be so many things. I've drawn a blank right now, to be honest. What else? Cost of living is generally probably cheaper in America. Again, it depends where you live. But as I said before, groceries are probably cheaper here. Eating out is a lot cheaper. You do a monthly rent in America, whereas we do either weekly or fortnightly in New Zealand. And obviously, your wildlife is very different. Like I've seen geckos and a lot of squirrels. We don't get any squirrels in New Zealand. Depending on the season, like in summer here, I'm going to have to look out for spiders and snakes, things that just really aren't found in New Zealand that can harm you, like things in America can harm you. So I have to keep my eyes and keep my feet wary of where I'm walking. Did that make sense? Keep my feet wary? I don't think it did. That's okay. On your stores, I've had to get used to calling them stores. Back home I call them shops. But on your stores, like they look closed to me. The front doors are usually closed, even though there might be an open sign on the window. In New Zealand, usually the doors are open to a shop. You know that it's open, you just go walk in. And you buy your wares or your food items, what have you. Scenery, again, it'll depend where you are. But in New Zealand, we're so lucky with our scenery. We have beaches everywhere. We have natural bush or forests just within minutes or within an hour's drive usually of wherever you live. Anyway, so for example, I wouldn't want to go camping in America, just being too worried about what would be lurking out there or wanting to eat me. I don't think I'd taste good, to be honest. In New Zealand, I wouldn't think twice about going camping. It's so easy. You don't have to worry about anything biting you or chomping on your leg in the middle of the night, unless your friend is hungry or something. And it's just a bad friend. From what I've seen, it pays to have qualifications for a job. Again, I'm sure it's not too dissimilar back in New Zealand, but I guess these. Bless me. That would have been loud. Yeah, I think more experience over qualifications is probably a lot more considered in New Zealand. I don't know. I haven't had to check the job market for a while. It'd be interesting to see when I need to do that. Another thing, in your stores, your card machines are massive. They're really wide. Our ones in New Zealand, they're probably half the size, which I thought was just an interesting fact. Healthcare. So I've had to purchase some healthcare, some medical assistance, and it's not cheap. So I can't have insurance yet. That's a work in progress. But yeah, I had to buy some healthcare. I'm footing the bill for that one. Holidays. America has a lot more holidays than New Zealand. Leading up to Christmas, you've got Thanksgiving. What else was there? No, sorry, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year. We pretty much just have Christmas and then our New Year. Then we have a few, because it's the summer over Christmas in New Zealand. We have a few kind of days off that make for a long weekend. In America, they just had Martin Luther King Day. Is that the right one? Martin Luther King Jr. Day? I'm not sure what it's called. Drive-thrus. America has drive-thrus for many different outlets. Banks have drive-through ATMs. Or when you don't call them that, just drive-thrus. We call them ATMs, but we don't have drive-through banks. Lots of food outlets have drive-thrus. Even just one-off restaurant outlets. What am I saying? A restaurant that's just a one-off place might have a drive-through. That's funny. I find that Americans talk a lot clearer and they enunciate words better than New Zealanders. And I'm a very good example of this. I mumble when I talk, and I find that I don't open my mouth a lot while I'm talking. But Americans are very clear. They speak louder than Kiwis do. And they don't understand my accent. That's funny. It's a learning curve for everyone involved. Sometimes I have to round my R's like an American, otherwise they don't understand what I'm saying. For example, the word park, P-A-R-K, park. They might think I'm saying pack, but I'm saying like a park. It's just a funny one. Restrooms. Restrooms are just called toilets back in New Zealand. I don't go to the restroom to have a rest. I go to the restroom to go to the toilet. So it makes sense. In New Zealand we just call them toilets. Milk and eggs, going back to food. Your milk has added vitamin D in it. And it says like on all the packaging, vitamin D. That's not a thing back in New Zealand. I'm not sure why. I don't know what the benefit of adding vitamin D into milk is. Obviously it's good for you. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not in New Zealand milk. Correct me if I'm wrong, if it is in it. Eggs in New Zealand are kept outside of the refrigerated section of the supermarket. They're just on a shelf. Whereas eggs in America, they're kept in the fridge. Going back to toilets. Interesting. The water level in American toilets is much higher than New Zealand water levels. In New Zealand, the water level is pretty much near the very bottom of the toilet. And then on American toilets, you have like a lever on the side that you pull down. In New Zealand, we have buttons on the top, and usually two buttons, one for the. Yep. So yeah, I think I've covered a bunch of things that I've noticed mostly. There'll be some that come up. So if there's enough more information, what am I saying? It's late. If there's enough to make a second video, I could do that. If you guys can think of any others, feel free to leave them in the comments. And we may reconvene this video. And if I have made way too many errors in things I've said, I might need to correct that. Like that time I pronounced Arkansas some other way. So we'll leave it there for now. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're off to sleep because you've been listening to me ramble on and you're just trying to relax or sleep, I hope you sleep well. And it's very late here, so I'm going to go now too. So thanks for watching and listening, you guys, and I'll speak to you soon.